Now I do want to hear from the young adults who really branded this GA Talk story that we're bringing to you over the 4 days. So welcome Kenny Wiley and Amanda Witherspoon.
Hello, friends. My name is Kenny Wiley. I'm a UU World senior editor and a director of faith formation at Prairie UU Church near Denver, Colorado.
And I'm Amanda Weatherspoon, going into my 3rd year at Star King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, California, specializing in Africana Studies, Womanist Theology, and Liberation Theology. While my direct involvement with the Black Lives Matter leg of the overall Black liberation movement began in November of 2014, I just wanted to give a brief overview of how the hashtag Black Lives Matter came to be. There's typically a misconception that it sprang from the events of the Michael Brown murder and all of what followed in the lack of indictment. However, it actually was inspired by and came from the 2013 murder of Trayvon Martin, the acquittal of his attacker, and all that transpired. This hashtag was co-created by 3 queer women of color in response to this, and since then, Black Lives Matter has gained attention and has created new chapters, about 20 worldwide, including US, Canada, and Ghana.
When Mike Brown was killed in August, I was horrified. They let him lay in the street for 4.5 hours. I felt called to act, but I didn't know how. Transfixed, I went to Twitter and Facebook, and I watched online as the Ferguson streets filled, as the crowd grew angrier, as attempts to mollify people went unheard. As night fell in St. Louis that Saturday, I sat at my Denver, Colorado dinner table, and I wondered what to do. I searched online for a solidarity action in Denver. I found one in New York, found one in Philly, nothing in my city. I eventually went to sleep as Ferguson's unrest continued, thinking surely someone in Denver would plan something. I woke up Sunday morning and searched again. Nothing still. I got to church, did my DRE work, and searched again, and still nothing. And I looked around at my church and paused and laughed at myself, because I knew what this meant. I took a deep breath, and though I was not an organizer, I began to type a Twitter post asking if folks in town wanted to plan a vigil. A few days later, nearly 200 of us gathered. Days after that, it was 350. 9 months and dozens of actions later, here I am. Here we are.
Now, much of what the mainstream media covers when it comes to Black Lives Matter is fueled by the suspicious death of a person of color, specifically of a Black person, at the hands of law enforcement or an attacker of some other sort, and all the things that come after that. And this media coverage does spark important national conversations. We find ourselves talking about things that we haven't really been talking about in a while, whether that be what protests should and shouldn't look like, what police brutality means, what our roles are in that. A big question that comes up is what's appropriate for a protest? When it comes to appropriateness or respectability, I must say that Black people get killed in suits. Black people get killed as PhDs. Black people get killed on the streets. Black people get killed in courtrooms. Black people get killed in churches. So when it comes to respectability, that will not save us. The master's tools cannot dismantle the master's house, as Audre Lorde said. But all that is another conversation for another day. Another sentiment that is typically expressed when it comes to protest, riots, et cetera, is what does this all accomplish? What does this mean? It's a sentiment of confusion and not understanding why we are doing what we're doing in the streets. There's also a call for accountability and leadership. within the movement without the realization that there already is. There simply just isn't one person that everybody's rallying around. There's not one face. Folks, this is not the civil rights era of the Black liberation movement. There is no Martin Luther King Jr. He was killed. So the leadership is collective. It's all of us together, and that's something that is not recognized by the mainstream media. Something else that is not recognized by the mainstream media is that there are activities and activism and work that goes on outside of times of national protest. It's very easy to just tune in when things are being burnt in the streets or when people are running in the streets. But what people aren't realizing is all the work that came before this, definitely, since the civil rights movement up to now, all the work that was already going on, and all the work that has been inspired by this since then, all over the country. Collectives have started. There's been lots of movements that have been started, grassroots, by young adults, by youth, and others in response to this. There is a lot of work going on outside of the streets. There's work going on in classrooms. There's work going on in churches, in institutions such as our own. There is a lot happening that are not only protests, while the protests are important. So the question I have for us today is, where do we stand when it comes to Black Lives Matter? And I don't mean us as individuals in our own lives. I mean us as Unitarian Universalists. We're very proud of our role when it comes to abolition and emancipation. We're very proud of what we did in the civil rights era, but I ask you, what is our role now? Where will we be placed in history within this era of the Black liberation movement? Black Lives Matter is a radical statement, just as radical as our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. If we cannot say in solidarity that Black lives matter, then our first principle means nothing. Either Black lives matter to us or they don't. Either every life has inherent worth and dignity, and it doesn't. This is an absolute statement. There is no middle ground.
As I moved along these last several months since getting involved, I discovered that I needed a Black Lives Matter Unitarian Universalist theology. Like the Declaration of Independence and the preamble of the Constitution, the first principle of Unitarian Universalism, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It stands as an unrealized promise. I believe it is a map of the work done centuries and decades ago and the map of the work yet to do. Black Lives Matter today in our faith is a continuation of a long legacy of those willing to live out the idea that every person truly has inherent worth and dignity. Lydia Maria Child and William Lloyd Garrison fought to end slavery, challenging other Unitarians to do more. Frances Harper and Fannie Williams, 19th century Black Unitarian women, challenged sexism and racism with power and intensity. Lucy Stone, A. Powell Davies, James Reeb, Viola Liuzzo. To fight for Black lives now is to battle for salvation right here, right now, on this earth.
Right on.
It is to fight for life. It is to fight for love. It is to fight for justice. It is to demand more out of the first principle and to demand a more perfect faith. Amen. Many of us, friends, are here because this faith and the people in it affirmed. You may not be perfect, but your life matters just the same.
Amen.
Right now, we as UUs are being called to act. We're being called by our ancestors, those who demanded that we help end slavery. Those who demanded that we fight for suffrage, those who demanded that we join the struggle to end Jim Crow, those who demanded that we listen to Black power. And so, guided by our principle, that enduring unfulfilled promise of the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, ours is a faith that has worked to say, that is saying to those who have been marginalized, that you are a woman and your life matters. You are bisexual or gay or lesbian and your life matters. You are trans and your life matters. You have a disability and your life matters. You struggle with depression and your life matters. You feel lost, you feel alone, you feel angry, and your life matters. And friends, right now we are being called. We are being called by our ancestors, by our principals, by young black activists across the country to promote and affirm you are young and black and your life matters. You stole something and your life matters. I have been taught to fear you and your life matters. This society has left you behind and your life matters. Our ancestors, principals, and fellow humans are calling on us to promote and affirm with deeds and words and love and anger and hope. Black lives matter. 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 Thank you, friends. Let's go do this.
Ashe.